Hey, Dad, what you doing? Okay.
Welcome back to the Water Left Frog podcast. Each episode, I walk through all the music and art that I've created or co-created over the last 30 years. This episode, I'm going to stray away from my own music and highlight some of my favorite local music from here in St. Louis, Missouri. Having lived here my whole life, I have a pretty good idea of the great music this River City offers. I don't feel like there's a St. Louis sound. It is more of a hybrid of things, which, if you look at the history of St. Louis, that's always been the case. It's been a place where different cultures come together. It is not New York, it is not LA, it isn't even Chicago or Nashville. It's its own thing, where the sum is bigger than its parts. I maintain a huge archive of local music, and I get afraid that some of this great music will be lost to the ages. And that's why I'm sharing it today. Think of it as a St. Louis singer-songwriter mixtape. I hope you enjoy these performances. The first song up is called Pony to Ride by my good friend Chuck. Chuck and I met somewhere around 1998 or 1999. Like all good friends, he was a friend of a friend. There was this nice collective of songwriters who had started to frequent this small cafe called Cafe Paradiso in Webster Groves, which is just outside of St. Louis. Each Tuesday night, there was an open mic, and my friend Mark kept telling me I should check out Chuck and his songs. The small cafe held maybe about 20 people, but most of those people were there to listen to original music. It was a supportive atmosphere for those of us that performed. Well, of course, Chuck played, and I was amazed. Now, he isn't one to show off his accomplishments, and generally doesn't like to draw much attention to himself. All these years later, Chuck and I, we still talk, but these days it's mostly about old guitars, of which I consider Chuck to be an expert. And Chuck has a lot of songs. This time around, I'd like to highlight his song, Pony to Ride. This song was recorded for a compilation of St. Louis singer-songwriters that I had helped organize and put out in 1999. Each songwriter had 2 songs for the project, and we called this project Sweat Equity. We pressed a CD, had a CD release party. They were all great memories for me. I believe this track was recorded by Mark. My favorite memory of Chuck occurred recently. I was at an event with Chuck and one of his other friends whom I had not met, and his friend started quoting a lyric from one of Chuck's songs. Well, not wanting to be outdone, I started quoting Chuck's lyrics back to him as well, and this went on for a few minutes, leaving Chuck smiling and likely wondering why the two of us knew his song so well. It's pretty simple. Chuck is a really good songwriter, and he's one of my favorites. I hope you find the beauty that I hear in his songs. This is called Pony to Ride. I've talked a lot in other episodes about this wonderful little space called Sally Teas that existed once upon a time in Old Town St. Peter's. I hosted an open mic there on Fridays and Saturdays for a number of years. I was fortunate to see some great talent get their start in that open mic, and then see those same people become well-established musicians and songwriters in their own right. Showing up each week gave folks a chance to do better than what they did the week before. It was always a revolving door of talent, and I don't think I'm the only one who benefited from time spent at Sally Teas. There were a handful of bands that I would call the hardcore Sally Teas bands. River City Buskers, any configuration of a band with Jimmy Buckets, David's Last Words, and Mattahoochee. There are a few others, but these bands and a handful of singer-songwriters are the ones I think of the most when it comes to the music of Sally Teas. Mattahoochee went through a couple different iterations, but for the most part, the core group has continued to stay together. Their first CD was called Movin' On and had one of my favorite tracks, and it was also called Movin' On. Throughout the course of an open mic, I'd help Sally run the register or help bus tables, but if Mattahoochee was playing, we all pretty much stopped what we were doing to listen. If they played Movin' On, I was out dancing until the floors of the old place started shaking. They were such a good band, and to see them in a small place like Sally's was always a treat. Even to this day, I consider the best live performances that I've ever seen always go back to some hot Saturday night at Sally Teas with Mattahoochee playing Movin' On. This is Movin' On by Mattahoochee.
Your soul. Well, what do you do? Well, what do you do? Well, Phil. Well, now if you know it, and if you know you're missing something in your life, well, hell, it's just stagnant depression, baby, on your mind. Shooting stars, where the shooting stars all up across your sight. Well, yeah, there's too much pressure, now the pressure, baby, on your mind. Well, when the motor stops and you know what do? You get out, you slam the door, you push it, now you push it right, push it right, push it right, yeah, 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 yeah. When I'm moving on, moving on. Moving on, moving on, yeah, yeah, yeah. And we're moving on, moving on here, yeah, yeah. Now we're moving on, moving on. Well, now we are, we're moving on to here, yeah, yeah. We're moving on, yeah, right, yeah, yeah. We're moving on, yeah, yeah. Moving on, now moving on. Well, now workday life. There's no need, there's no need, no. There's no need for a 9-to-5 workday life. Well, now, yeah, yes, I am singing, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, now I'm singing, oh, yeah, 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 oh, yeah. Well, for too long now, for too long, yes, we've been working hard. Oh, we're out too late every night to wake up in the morning and give a thanks to what we're made from. Like the sun god, yes, with the sun, we're moving on. With the sun, with the sun, with the sun, yeah, we're moving on. We're moving on, moving on, moving on. Oh yeah, moving on, moving on, moving on the hill, yeah. Moving on, moving on, moving on. Moving on, moving on, moving on the hill, yeah. And we're moving on, moving on, moving on. Moving on, yeah.
In my mid-20s, I straddled the three worlds of music performer, songwriter, and music therapist. My undergrad took a while to finish, but the training I got as a music therapist gave me some good insights and helped me meet some great people. One of those great people was another music therapist named Sandra Knight. She also straddled the three worlds of being a music performer, songwriter, and music therapist. We met at a music therapy conference, and she had heard that I'd done some recording. We got to talking, and I agreed to record her first album, The Deep End. I was living in an apartment at the time, and Sandra and I managed to get a wide range of musicians to come and record with us. I still chuckle at how we managed to record things like drums and vibraphone in that small apartment. Needless to say, the lady that lived below me hated us. We recorded Sweet Hypocrisy over the course of a couple days. I was lucky enough to find a sitar player who helped us out with the song. I didn't know whose idea it was to have sitar on this, but Sandra and I were constantly pushing boundaries on what we could do. I had no clue how to record a sitar, still don't, but we did it, and I think the end result is pretty good. This is Sweet Hypocrisy by Sandra Knight.
Can you think anything would ever change when everything you believe in only feels like chains? built your house out of thick, thick glass walls. I may see you, but I can't reach you at all. You live your life in this sweet hypocrisy, clutching yourself on bended knees. If I make a donation to the conscience of your heart, then you say you would free me. It seems you only wanted a sacrificial friend, and I sympathize with the condition you were in. But when my virtue ran out and I asked for something more, well, you quietly got up and walked out the door. You live your life in this sweet hypocrisy, clutching yourself on bended knees. If I make a donation to the conscience of your heart, then you say, oh, you would free me. It was always in the air, this kind of intimate persuasion, and I lived on the hope of a private consummation. But when it came right down to the working it out, well, you only wanted to scream and to shout. You live your life in this sweet hypocrisy, clutching yourself on bended knees. If I make a donation to the conscience of your heart, and you say, oh, you say you would free me. Oh, you would free me. No, you can't free me.
I've recorded a lot of great guitar players in my time, and Joe Bingham was one of those great players. He crossed a series of genres with so much ease that it was hard to pin him down. He is an exceptional musician as well as a great composer. At the time, I was working on my third compilation of singer-songwriters based out of St. Louis. I had 8 people, just like I had done for Sweat Equity and Elbow Grease. Yes, there's a DIY theme going on with all these titles of these projects. Joe was gracious with his time, but informed me midway through the project that he was leaving for California. Why people try to leave St. Louis, I have no clue. Between his leaving and some of the others in the groups getting distracted with life, the third compilation fell apart and never materialized. I had kept all the sessions and ended up mixing and finalizing the record. I just never put it out. I'm not even sure Joe has ever heard this particular recording. I find his playing to be delightful, and there is a merging of styles that I think only Joe could do. I had fun recording this piece. This is She Said Yes by Joe Bingham. I remember when Jimmy Buckets and Mattahoochee were writing and recording for a contest here in St. Louis. It was around 1996 or 97. The local station, 105.7 The Point, had their first contest called Point Essentials. Local bands could submit one of their songs, and all these local DJs and others would get in a room, listen to the tracks in some kind of anonymous manner, and select the best songs to be released on a CD that would then be promoted by the radio station. It was a novel idea at the time, and it had all of us sitting up late thinking about how we could get our songs recorded and submitted to the radio station. All of us at Sally's were recording and trying to help each other out. Far Away was the song that Jimmy recorded and had Scott from Mattahoochee play on it. I fell in love with the song. And one late night, sitting at Sally's, Jimmy and I got to talking. I said, "Hey, I really love that Far Away song. What's that about?" And he said that he had lost a friend while in the Army. He was killed in a tank accident. I stopped asking Jimmy about his songs after that. Sadly, Jimmy passed away a few years ago. I've managed to get a hold of a lot of his early recordings that were essentially done at Sally's or in some kind of conjunction with Sally's. I plan to record these songs as a tribute to the legacy he left behind because he left so many good songs. This is one of my favorites. This is called Far Away by Jimmy Buckets.
Try to find my way. I seem to work on yesterday. Gotta break out, find it, and take it by the neck. It's gonna blow up. I thank me for what I did. 2 times long ago, I told myself to run, keep it all far away. So this is what I've done, keep it all far away. Keep it all far away. I stepped outside myself on yesterday. Won't stop choking on this wilderness. Sit back, take a hit of emptiness. Drink the knowledge, courage, throw it in my face, and beat me down now, and kick me, and make me a disgrace. One time's time enough to do the dirty work. Keep it all far away. Looks like I'm the jerk. Keep it all far away. Keep it all far away. I stepped outside myself on yesterday.
that wraps up this episode of the Water Left Frog podcast. Thanks for taking the time to walk with me through this journey of good music, good memories, and future rock and roll hits. Big thanks to the staff here at Center Neptune, as well as all the artists for these particular recordings. The staff here do a great job of keeping the tapes rolling and sounding good. Big thanks to our legal team, Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. We'll be back with another episode to wrap up Season 2. Thanks for listening.